Hi friends, Zoe here. Today I'm super excited to talk to you because today is another episode in this series of ZOVEMBER, and today we're going to be having a Q&A all about minimalism. I asked you guys to ask me questions on both Twitter and Instagram, and I got some fantastic questions from you, so let's get started. Alright, so I'm starting on Twitter here, and our first question comes from my friend Jay Swanson. He's been in my Paris video, so I'll be sure to link his channel down below. So Jay wants to know, do you have any easy starters, something you can do right away to build a little bit of momentum? So one thing that I always tell people when they're starting with the minimizing or simplifying process is to begin with the items already you know that you don't use or don't even know they're there. Oftentimes this means going through your clothing. So go through your closet, go through your drawers, ask yourself when the last time you wore these things were, because most of the time when people haven't done the simplification process yet, there are going to be items there that are going to be easier to purge because we tend to gravitate towards the same clothing, the one that we feel the most comfortable in. So I'd say start with something like clothes where you have a lot of, or do easy surface scan. So this is on your desk, on your dresser, on your bedside table, and ask yourself if these items actually really serve a purpose for you. Once you do that initial purge, you're going to realize that it actually feels very good, and knowing that your items are going to somebody who will appreciate them more. The next question I have comes from my amazing friend Sophie from Sophie's World. I'll be leaving her channel down below too. And Sophie asks, do you completely refrain from buying new items, or do you just swap out items, old with new? I'll buy things that I need. So an example of buying something completely new and not replacing it with something is, say, buying a podcast mic or better microphone for my videos. Because I never previously had a microphone, I just would use the speaking piece in the Apple headphones, but it was time to invest in something to obviously make my work a lot better. And in regards to swapping things in and out, yes, I definitely do that. So for example, I completely wore out a pair of jeans that I had, so then I knew it was time to buy a new pair of jeans. Things like that. I do like to keep it small. As you guys know, I only have a couple of suitcases, and that's what I'm living with right now. So I guess I'm extra conscious about what I'm taking in and getting rid of. And for example, when I did buy that podcast mic, it took up a lot of space, so I actually had to get rid of some clothing to fit it into my life. And the next question comes from Sarah, and she wants to know, what's the biggest difference you've noticed between your life before you started using minimalism and now? I'd say the biggest difference is that I don't experience anxiety like I did before. And I feel that in the whole simplification process and the fact that I've now simplified my life down to 2 suitcases, there are a lot of things that just don't even have a place in my mind anymore, if that makes sense. So before, I'll give you an example, when I was living in BC and I had a car, I would have to consciously have on my mind oil change, gas, tires, winter tires. There was this whole compartment, I guess, in my brain dedicated to my car. So simplifying my entire life, essentially, and this happened when I moved to Toronto and I did get rid of my car, that whole compartment kind of leaves your mind. So think about that as an example in regards to minimizing, say, all of your clothing or minimizing all of your makeup. When you are actually so much more aware of the things that you do own, they kind of hold the space in your mind and you feel organized. And in that way, anxiety has really diminished. I guess that is the best way to describe it, if that makes sense. You feel a sense of more control of your life, whereas I feel like when anxiety would hit me in the past, anxiety was this feeling of no control or out of control. So the more that I've simplified and minimized my life, I'm a lot happier, and also I'm definitely a lot organized, and in that way, I guess the biggest difference that I notice is the decrease and almost completely gone. You can't ever really be completely gone of anxiety, but I just feel like I don't fall into funks or have these like near panic attacks anymore. So the next question comes from my girl Cheryl, Nonstop Paris, and Cheryl asks, what are your areas that you struggle to minimize? Any secret stashes or collections or vices? I don't know. I'd say books are the hardest for me to get rid of. I have a million books on my Audible, and I don't really know if that counts, but hard copy books, I have obtained a couple more here in Rome. I've also been lent some by friends, but when I do read them, I do try to pass them on to somebody that I know, because I feel like that's a powerful gift to give somebody. I'd say that I do have a difficult time getting rid of books though, still. I do give them to friends happily, but what I'm saying is sometimes I always wonder, should I read this one more time before I give it away? And then I really need to think back and ask myself, are you really going to read this hard copy book one more time? Do you have essentially time for that? Or are you going to make time for that? So I'd say books is hard. I feel like I'm at a very comfortable place with my wardrobe and the things that I do own. In regards to secret stashes, there's really nothing. Yeah, I don't know. Books are hard. Books are hard. And Danica has asked, what do you do with things that have great sentimental value, such as old journals, teddy bears, heirlooms? So in regards to old journals, I don't know, for some reason I feel like I don't have a hard time getting rid of them. My most memorable journal was the one that I took with me when I backpacked Europe when I was 20 years old, and I was so diligent at writing in it every single day, writing about what happened, writing about all of my feelings and emotions. I was completely 100% raw with this journal. I was going through such a transitional phase in my life, and that journal held what I, at that time, and like in hindsight, when I was finished writing in that journal, it held all of my secrets, I guess I would say. I'm a pretty open book, let's be honest here, but at that time I spoke all about love and reflecting on my past relationship with my boyfriend of 5 years, and then moving to Toronto and kind of discovering spirituality. And I really was so raw in this journal, and I brought that journal with me to Toronto. And then I got myself into another relationship. This was a very toxic relationship, and I felt that this person, if they had the opportunity, the one that I was dating, if they had the opportunity, they would read my journal if they knew that I had it. So when I was with this person, essentially, it's terrible to even say that I made this type of choice, but when I was dating him, I decided to get rid of anything that I thought may or could cause a problem. So this was the journals, because he was quite controlling. And so for the first time, I got rid of the most special journal to me, this one with all of my spiritual moments and just a huge, like I said, transformational, transitional, like all the feelings. I just finally, for the first time, really spilled my heart out. I had, of course, kept journals here and there, diaries, when I was in high school, but I would always almost write them as if, like, just in case my parents or just in case my brothers read them, like, I didn't want them to know everything, but this one journal held everything. So it's kind of funny. Sorry, I'm getting into like a conversation with you guys now. So or like a story time. So because I felt like I had to get rid of this journal, because if my ex-boyfriend found it, would hit the fan. So I think what I did was I started ripping out all the pages and mixing them all up. And down the street from where I was living in Toronto, there was some construction going on, and there was like one of those porta potty outhouse things. So I took this shredded book and I just like threw it down into this blue gross water, and I was like, okay, no one's ever gonna read it. It sounds so funny to talk about now, but I was actually quite terrified that he would find this and know only, like, I was just so exposed in this journal. So yeah, that I guess nobody will ever know the things that held in that journal, but it was great. So back to the point that I'm trying to make here. When I got rid of that journal, that one most meaningful journal to me, now when I complete books like, say, my 5-minute journals or other journals, I get rid of them, because the truth is I never really flipped through them. As you may know if you read my Beauty and the Breakdown book, I put the key lessons that I learned over the span of a year and this very transitional process into a book, and since then I have recycled the journals. So I guess I view it as a way that I'm consistently growing and consistently changing, and there's no need to revisit those past chapters. And once you get rid of, say, your hardest journal to get rid of or things like that, everything else becomes easier. Like I said, that one journal was so meaningful and so special, but I got rid of it. I got rid of it in perhaps maybe when I wasn't ready to get rid of it, but it made getting rid of more things in the future like that easier. And I'm so sorry for running off on that on that story time there. But then Danica also asked about teddy bears and heirlooms. I don't have any I got rid of all that stuff, to be honest. Once you start simplifying, like in regards to Jade's first question, like once you kind of start, you kind of get addicted to it and you realize like how nice it is to actually know and use all the things. I never was attached to a teddy bear. I don't know, sorry, I don't really have an answer to that. For heirlooms, I'd say if it's, say, like a necklace from your grandmother, I would wear it because that's what it's meant for. It's not really kind of meant to sit in a box, right? So anything, I suppose, if I were ever given something very special like that, I would make sure that I was wearing it. I hope that answers your question, Danica. Thank you for asking it. It's actually a very good one. Now I'm heading over to Instagram. Ashley from Brave Girl Arise asked, do you minimalize your electronics like cell phone, laptop, emails? This seems to be a constant struggle for me. I keep cleaning out my phone, but I have trouble deleting things I might need later. So in regards to worrying about like deleting things, I have a portable hard drive that I store, say, all my other videos on or work for my clients, because my laptop runs out of space so quickly, so I find that super helpful. In regards to electronics, I definitely minimize my electronics always. Like I only keep what I use and use what I keep. So at the beginning of the process, electronics are a hard thing to minimize because we always think, well, what if I need it? But the truth is that if you aren't needing it, if it's not in, say, your circle of work, then recycle it. I think also a hesitation towards getting rid of electronics is that people are a bit overwhelmed with how do I recycle it or how do I dispose of something like this. I just think you have to make the trip. It's all about just like gathering all those little cords, old cell phones, things like that, and just making the trip to donate or recycle. And in regards to emails, I think the thing you need to get used to is like that's going to be a constant in your life. You're not just like all of a sudden one day never going to receive any emails, so try not to feel the anxiety about it. Make little goals for yourself each day, like maybe I'm going to spend an hour on my emails or however long you need. If you know you feel better when all the emails are done, then set times like Tim Ferriss. He speaks about checking in on his emails only 2 times a day. So you could do something like that for yourself, which could help if you are feeling a little bit anxious and you feel like you need to simplify that. I like to start my day off by clearing out my inbox. I obviously continue to have to unsubscribe to things, so whenever I notice something in there that I'm not even going to open, I'm just clicking the delete button. That needs to be open and clicked unsubscribe. So little things like that on a daily basis make things a lot more simple. The next question comes from The Motherworks. Hi Zoe, my question is, where do I start? I feel so overwhelmed by clutter and so frustrated when I get rid of bagfuls and my space is still so busy. Any tips? This is a wonderful question because I think a lot of people refrain from beginning the minimizing processes because they already feel like they've accumulated so much, and like I spoke about, this feeling of being out of control. So what I'd say is start with a room, or if you feel like the room is already too daunting, then start with a thing like clothes. Dedicate like a morning or day, however long you think. I'd say start by making your bed, because this is going to be essentially your desk to get everything done. Put all of the clothes that you own on your bed and eliminate all distractions around you. This is cell phones. This is, say, your kids, drop them off at your sister's house, anything like that you need to do. Like, make sure that this day is completely dedicated to you decluttering a space. And I actually write about a step-by-step guide to beginning the whole decluttering process in my new minimalism book, which is going to be coming out in January 1st. So I have the pre-order link down below if you guys are interested. So what then I would say is actually go through and pick your piles and really, really consciously do this. Like I said, there shouldn't be anything going on as a distraction. Like once you get through an area like this and you've dominated it and you've simplified it and you say put your clothing back into your drawers or your closet and you see how simple and more aware of each things that you own are, it's going to become easier. And also, as I mentioned before, or starting with surfaces in your home, start to become more conscious. You can also keep a box in a closet. This is a really good idea. And every time you kind of walk into a room, ask yourself, is there anything I can get rid of? Do I even really notice that small picture hanging on the wall, or those candles I've had like collecting dust there? And start putting these things into the box in the closet. And if you don't find yourself missing them or needing them, then donate the box each month. So that's another really good place to start. The more and more you do it, the more and more rewarding it becomes. And like I said, you kind of become addicted to it. The next question I have is from Fancy in Nancy. If you had a real apartment, would you get a little more stuff? Absolutely. Absolutely. I always consciously think about what it would be like to have an apartment, and I visualize it, and I kind of have decorated in my mind already. Obviously very minimal aesthetic. I love the color white, so it would be very clean and crisp, but comfortable. I definitely have aspirations to have an apartment one day, a flat, whatever you wish to call it. And then of course I would buy things. By no means am I going to have a room, like a living room with no couch, or a bedroom with like a very small bed. Like, my idea of minimalism is to live simply, be surrounded by beautiful things that make me happy, make me joyful, and all things that have been purchased consciously. So for example, you spend like half your life sleeping, I'm going to have a nice bed and it's going to be comfortable, and it's going to be a place that I want to crawl into every night and have a very good rest. So Cheryl, Nonstop Paris, thank you for commenting on Instagram as well, Cheryl, leaving Cheryl's channel below. Cheryl says, do you apply minimalism to any other areas of your life besides belongings? Any examples? So I do write about this in my book as well. So I definitely do apply this to friendships, and if the video isn't up already, it's going to be up shortly. I did one on decluttering friendships. So this is very important. Like, once you realize that the only things in your life that should be there are ones that bring you joy. And I also declutter social media. So for example, Facebook friends, like I'm always kind of going through that and deciding, like, is this somebody who I would go out for lunch with? If not, then like, well, I don't need to have them on Facebook. And yeah, that's it. I want to thank you guys all for all of your questions. It's really fun to do Q&As, and it was kind of cool. It brought in a little story time too. Be sure to leave any additional questions you have down below, because Q&As are so fun to make. I feel like I'm having a little chit chat with you guys. I hope you all have an amazing day, and I hope you're enjoying ZOVEMBER so far. If you are, be sure to give this video a thumbs up and subscribe below, and I'll see you again in my next video.